is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. Apologies for going on late, but hey, things happen. But right now, what's happening is that we have a guest coming up. Our guest is a two-time NCAA champion for the Long Beach State 49ers, and he is also a state champion with Orange Coast College. And our guest today is Nick Amado. Also, Jack Stafford will be joining us on the show today, which is really cool. Also, we have some sad news. Unfortunately, a conference will not be having fall sports this upcoming season. What is this conference going to be? And what will the consequences be of not having any fall sports? We'll find out after the event. This is Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point with Jack Stafford here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are we going right now, into it, or do we have a little bit of time? Okay. All right.
And we are live here on Set Point. As I just mentioned, my name is Teran Rodriguez. Apologies for a little bit of the delay. I had a little technical issues trying to get everything put together, but we are here live, and let's get pizzizy. First, let's meet our co-host. He is joining us for his third show of Set Point, and he is a good friend of mine, and he is ready to talk some volleyball. Introducing the one, the only, Mr. Jack Stafford. How are we doing, Jack?
I'm doing well, Teran. I'm excited. Hey, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to interview one of my best friends tonight.
That is great to hear, Jack. And now, without any further delay, let us introduce our guest. Like I said, our guest is a two-time NCAA champion with Long Beach State's men's volleyball team, and he's also a state champion with Orange Coast College. And just like Jack, he is a Balboa Bay volleyball club coach. Introducing the one, the only, Mr. Nick Amado. How are we doing, Nick?
Hey, how we doing, Teran? How we doing, Jack? I'm stoked to be here today. Heard nothing but great things about this podcast, so I'm very honored to be here.
Hey, the pleasure's all mine, Nick, and we are glad to have you on as well. And let me just say, it's truly been an honor to be a part of your volleyball journey, from junior college all the way to the NCAA, and hopefully to the pros. And it's definitely truly just been an honor, and I'm glad to have you on the show today, Nick. And we go back to junior college, and we had nothing but good times, man. So,
yeah, man, it's been a great couple of years knowing you, Teran. I mean, I just see you out here just killing the game, killing the article game, killing the podcast game, and I'm glad I can be a part of that now.
Hey, great to have you, brother. So before we get into our little interview, just got to pretty much just get the disclaimer out of the way, just in case the suspicious ones are watching. So obviously, I went to Long Beach State, and Nick Amado played for Long Beach State. So there may be a little bias. There may be just a little biased. And all three of us went to Orange Coast College. So there may be a little OCC bias. So, and also these are the opinions and thoughts of myself, Nick, and Jack. So just got to throw that out of the way. But other than that, let us begin. So, Nick, the floor is all yours. Tell all the listeners out there who you are and who Nick Amado is, and basically how you got into volleyball.
All right, well, so as Teran said, I'm Nick Amado. I'm currently sitting at 25 years old. I started playing volleyball when I was 15, right? And it was a complete accident. I signed up for tryouts. I didn't go. And the volleyball coach was actually neighbors with my basketball coach and said, hey, like, I saw this guy's like 6'5". Is he athletic? And my basketball coach was like, he's like okay at basketball, but take him. Maybe he'll be good for volleyball. And ever since then, it just kind of took off. Like, I played for Main Beach Volleyball Club my sophomore year of high school, and then 9-for-9 Volleyball Club my junior and senior year for high school. Won my 18th year with like Lucas Yoder and Doug Hammond and Carl Olay and Jack Yoder and Will Parks. Just a great group of dudes. Didn't really have the grades, I guess you could say, to get myself into a 4-year. So I got approached by Travis Turner one day, and he asked me if I'd like to come play at OCC, and I said yes, and that was one of the best decisions I made in my entire life. I was able to go there for 2 years, where I met you. I met my great friend over here, Jack Stafford, and we won the championship in 2014. Didn't work out as well as we thought it would in 2015. After that, I went to Long Beach, had a redshirt for 2 years. I dealt with some injuries and some issues my first year there. The second year, I blew my knee up, so I got another redshirt year. Came in starting my junior year at the age of 23, which, I mean, is something you don't see very often, but hey, you know, things happen. And then after that, you know, the rest of the story goes, we went back to back. I was lucky enough to play under Alan Knight at Long Beach and play with some great teammates like Matt Butler, Zach Gates, TJ DeFalco, Josh Tuaniga, Jordan Molina. You know, the list goes on and on and on. So after that, I mean, I left, went to Spain, played my first year professionally over there. And then just as the story goes, Corona happened, and here I am back home and, you know, just waiting to get back overseas again.
That is amazing to hear, and pretty much that's been the saying for 2020. Corona happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but everything will be all right. You know, we just gotta just trust one another and just be smart. So anyway, back to you. So Nick, what was your, other than winning the NCAA championship, what was one of your favorite moments with Long Beach State?
Wow. That's a very loaded question. I think one of my favorite moments was when we lost to Hawaii, right, the 2018 season in 5 at Hawaii, right? We were undefeated up until then, and we had never really felt that feeling before, right? And so that Monday when we got into the gym, it wasn't like a feeling of regret or we screwed up. It was a feeling of, wow, there's so much more to who we are and what we can be, and that we can improve, you know? So we took that feeling and we applied it in the gym. And even though, so the Big West tournament was a week after that, and then after that, an NCAA tournament, we grew in that 1 week more than we grew in the 4 months prior to that. You know, so to see that type of growth in a team is probably one of the greatest things I've ever experienced. You know, growth in myself, growth in my teammates, and also growth in my coaches to help us become the best team that we could possibly be, which, you know, ended up leading to being successful.
That is awesome. Absolutely amazing. And this just goes to show you that you learn more from a loss than you do a win. I mean, obviously you want to win every game, but bumps in the road happen. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think one of the greatest quotes I ever heard was from Kobe Bryant saying, "I don't remember every game I win, but I remember every game I lose." You know?
Absolutely.
So that one sticks with me real hard. Yeah.
Yes, great quote.
I just want to get into, you know, Teran mentioned it briefly. We were all OCC Pirates here. So go over your time at OCC. Go over, those 2 seasons you spent there, your role on the team. I know I was there. I witnessed it. You played a huge role as a freshman, and you were one of our studs as a sophomore. So just tell us a little bit about that. Take us through that journey and kind of talk about some teammates that were memorable for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, OCC was one of the most important aspects of my life. I had, not a lot of people get to experience junior college like that, like Jack and I did. And so you got to understand about junior college, in my opinion, is maybe a little tougher than it is going straight to a 4-year, because you still have 2 more years to prove yourself, right? So, the year before that, you're raising your hand to see if you can use the bathroom, and next thing you know, you don't even have to go to class if you don't want to. So it becomes this huge personal responsibility that's put upon 18-year-olds. And so to watch 40 guys come in the gym, and then all of a sudden it turned into 20, it really makes you think, wow, junior college really is going to weed out, the thin-skinned people. So talking upon that, going to junior college, I was able to see so many different walks of life, right? I was able to meet Jack. I was able to meet people like Brandon Dow or Ty Hutchinson and Brendan Duff, and, all people who had these huge, huge dreams, right? But at some point maybe held themselves back, or something else held them back, and they had to take this route. And it's just a huge, huge growing opportunity for people, And so you meet people that are so similar to you, I still talk to Jack almost every day. I talk to Colby Cook, who's, in my opinion, a legend, almost every day. And it helps you put things into perspective. It helps you see that if you work hard enough, you put your head down, that you can really go anywhere you want, even if you maybe have this skeptical past. So I tell people about the greatness of junior college every day. I think it's an awesome thing. And I think if people are embarrassed about it, they shouldn't be, because, so many great volleyball players went to junior college. Even my head coach at Long Beach State's a former Pirate at OCC, So, it's just a beautiful thing what Travis does there too. He is able to make such a great team dynamic with people that are so different. And it's something that I may not talk to someone like Andrew McCall very often, right, who I played with going from 2014, 2015. But every time I do see him, it's like, hey, it's like I just saw you yesterday type of feeling. And it's like that with almost every person that goes to OCC. As you know, Teran, being a Pirate yourself, it's just it's a great community that's built around something so small.
Absolutely, and the culture at OCC is quite amazing. So Nick, what has been like your relationship with Travis Turner, and what were some amazing Travis Turner and Nick Amado moments for you two?
Oh, wow. So my relationship with Travis is very good and very healthy. I look to him like he's family to me, because he's been so instrumental in my growth, not only as a volleyball player, but as a person, and becoming a decent human being, which I strive to be. But I think one of the best moments, I have 2 moments, actually. One of them involves my boy, Jack Stafford here.
Uh-oh.
So the first one is when Travis put me in charge of all the ball carts, and there's like 7 of them. So I just start selecting people, right? And I didn't really know Jack that well. But I figured this kid, he's a little ridiculous at times. So everyone gets 1 ball cart. I was put in charge, so I get none of them, And then Jack gets 2. Travis looks at me and goes, "Nick, you can't be doing that." All right, fine. I gave Jack 2 anyway. So then the next time, one of the best moments I've had with Travis was my sophomore year when I was team captain, right? And so it was at the end of practice, And he goes, all right, Nick, make sure the nets are broken down. So I just start yelling, hey, guys, break down the nets, break down the nets. And I go take off my shoes. And then Travis yells at me, right? He goes, Nick, what the heck is this? Just because you're in charge doesn't mean you get to tell people what to do. You lead by showing them what to do. And that's something I took to heart very deeply because that makes sense. No one likes being told what to do, but you show someone the way, like what Travis does with so many people, then eventually they will go that way. Like I've always said about Travis, he's one that he will take you to a bridge, right? He'll never force you over it, but he'll show you where it is. And it's you as a person that's got to take those first steps. So I love Travis to the bottom of my heart. I always will. And I would like to think our relationship's excellent.
Absolutely. And me as well, I definitely have a great relationship with Travis. I think everyone who meets Travis Turner is in for a great relationship, and he's just such a great guy. He's a great overall guy, and I've definitely had him on set point. So, Travis, if you're listening, thanks for everything. And he's actually helped me become a better person as well. So, yeah.
He's definitely a good friend of the show. Nick, I want to get into, one thing that I think when I hear about your volleyball career, we're obviously teammates, but you've gone through so many different kind of transitions in your volleyball career. You started as a high school player. You went to Orange Coast College. You went on to Long Beach State, obviously had a bunch of success. You have USA volleyball experience. You're a coach, and you play professionally overseas. Talk about the transitioning from different levels and how to handle that as a player and how you handled it personally and the success you can find at the higher and higher levels for players that may be listening right now.
Wow, that's a great question. So I think what it comes down to is you have to, when you get to another level of volleyball, you have to accept people are going to get better, right? Not only yourself, right? You obviously got better. That's why you're there. But other people are there because they are also better. And so if I went into Long Beach with the same attitude that I had at OCC where I'm the best, right? No one's better than me. Then all I would be is upset because guess what? Amir Rodriguez and Bryce Ewell are absolutely bouncing balls on me. I'm getting tooled off the block. And so it pokes at your ego is what it does. So when you get to those higher levels, it's about expecting the best out of everyone else. So therefore, you have to expect the best out of yourself if you want to be the best. And so it's not something that happens overnight. It takes maybe a year, 2 years. Who knows how long it will take for different players. Some players, I'm not going to lie, TJ DeFalco walks in a gym and he dominates. Some players are like that, but it's not like that for everyone. So it's about just understanding that, hey, the game's going to get faster, it's going to get bigger, and it's going to get better, and you need to find a way to adjust. And you need to take a look at your game and how you view the game and how you play the game, and you need to adjust it in certain ways so you can also flourish as a player. Use the skills that you have or use some of the benefits you have to find a way to succeed. Because, I'm not the biggest middle, right? And I know that. But I found a way to flourish by using my quickness as opposed to my size. So it's about finding ways to transition your game to adjust to the higher level of game that's already being played. And so you just got to look at yourself. You just got to ask yourself, am I doing the most right now? And if you're not, what kind of adjustments can you make in your day-to-day practice so you can succeed on the court? Because that's all that really matters for every athlete is winning on the court.
That is great advice for anybody out there who's listening. I think that's great advice for any athlete in any sport, and not just volleyball. I think that's just tremendous advice for sure.
Absolutely. That's pretty legendary, if you ask me. And this pretty much kind of just makes me want to run through a brick wall.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Well, Teran, there's like 4 of them around me right now, so you pick one, and then I'm there for you, dude. I'll support you.
Thanks, Nick. So anyway, so I talked about what were some of your favorite moments with Travis Turner. What were some of your favorite moments with Alan Knipe? And there is no wrong answer, and you could pretty much pick as many as you want.
Wow, that's a gnarly question because I spent a lot of time around Alan Knipe. I think one of the biggest lessons I learned from Alan was how to listen. Because before that, I was never listening. I was always thinking of a response while someone else was talking. And so, Alan, I remember one day, and I believe in everything about Alan Knipe in volleyball, right? To my core. And I always will. And so he is telling me I did something wrong, and I'm sitting there just thinking of a response, thinking of an excuse, right? And while he's talking, just mid-sentence, he goes, Nick, stop thinking of a response and start listening. And I wanted to say something already because I'm already thinking of a response. And then he just tells me, Nick, you're always thinking of a response before you listen to me, and I need you to listen to me, and then you can respond. And I was like, wow, he's absolutely right. You know, like even when I'm sitting in class and listening to a professor talk, the first thing I'm doing is thinking of a response instead of absorbing the information and then responding. And so he had this rule, which is, you know, you can either respond in 24 seconds, which means you're not listening, or you can respond in 24 hours, which means you listened, you absorbed the information, and then now you thought of a clear, level-headed response. And that's something I always took to heart from him. Upon a ton of other things, you know, that I applied to my life, that was one of the biggest ones because it happened in the middle of a practice, and it kind of left me shook for a little bit. And he was completely right. Other than that, I've had nothing but great experiences with Alan, on and off the court.
Amazing. Just absolutely amazing.
That is like some Aristotle philosopher stuff right there. I love it. It gets into the mind of one of the greatest coaches out there. You know, I think one thing about Long Beach that always, I think, is striking for anybody, and, you know, anyone who goes to Long Beach, it's a part of it, is playing in the pyramid. You know, talk about some of the benefits and some of the tough parts of playing in the pyramid and how exciting that was for your first game in there, and just kind of the aura of it and the atmosphere that the pyramid creates. Because if you haven't seen it, it's just one of the most astounding gymnasiums, I think, in the country. And I think it's I'm extremely jealous that you got to play 2 years there. So just talk about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, in my opinion, and I think a lot of my friends maybe who live on the Hawaiian Islands might disagree because they have the Stan Sheriff. But in my opinion, the pyramid is the greatest place in the United States to play volleyball. Hands down. And that's my opinion. And so, obviously, it's a great place for spectating. It's a beautiful architectural feat, you know. But the greatest thing about the pyramid, to me, is what it represents, which represents the Long Beach family, the 49ers, grit and just hard work. And so when you step into the pyramid to play, when you step into the pyramid to practice, you are not stepping into just a building that's there, that was built in 2000. You're stepping into a tradition that was built since the 70s. And that's what the pyramid represents. You know, it's something strong, right? And something supportive and something that will always push you to be your best. So it's not about the structure itself, even though it's a beautiful structure. It's about what it represents to a 49er and what it represents to play for Long Beach volleyball.
I definitely agree with you in regards to the pyramid being one of the greatest places to ever play in. It's so amazing and spacious. It's just leaves you in awe, and it's one of the better facilities that I've ever seen in any NCAA gymnasium. And To me, I think the pyramid represents everything built brick by brick, but from everyone that has come to Long Beach State, if that makes any sense. Wouldn't you agree?
I think we got to get this on like a T-shirt or something. I think that's like, I think everyone who steps onto the Long Beach campus can relate to what Nick just talked about right there.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like, I mean, it's a building is what it is, but what Long Beach is transcends that building, right? So even maybe one day that pyramid goes down, what that pyramid represents will always be there. So it's more than just a building. It's almost a way to live your life.
Agreed. I definitely agree. And it's just like how for the team mascot, the 49ers got dropped from Long Beach State. Like, you could take away the 49ers from Long Beach State, but you can't take the Long Beach State away from the 49ers, or if that makes any sense. Like, we will always be the 49ers at heart. Like, I don't care what anyone says.
Right, absolutely. You know, and, you know, like, we live in 2020. It is what it is, and we have to accept that, but we'll always be the beach. And, I mean, I know for a fact we'll always be the 49ers at heart. I mean, it is what it is. But that doesn't affect anything, because if we're the 49ers, the Sharks, Long Beach, Cecil, LBSU, there's only one way to play, and that's hard. And that's what that pyramid represents.
I couldn't have said it better. And in the chat room, we have ourselves a chat room. Larry B., the founder of iSports Radio, says that we're sending you a T-shirt, an iSports Radio T-shirt. So, yeah, we definitely got to get you one. So, yeah, it's...
Oh. Teran, you know how many walls I will run through wearing that shirt?
Well...
So many, Teran. So many.
Well, then we may have to send you a couple. Maybe 3.
The double XL. Just remember that.
Double X. You hear that, Larry B? Double XL for my boy Nick.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and we definitely got to send Jack one, too. He just said we'll be sending you one, too, Jack. So, yes.
That's beautiful.
All right, so... we're actually going to jump to 2018 when Long Beach State won the NCAA championship. And it was against UCLA. It was at UCLA. And the one that put down the championship point was none other than Nick. And when I saw that point, I was like, I know that guy. And I'm proud to have known him and to have supported him. So what was that moment like when you put down that final kill and won the NCAA championship?
Wow. So, you know, before that point even happened, right? Because you have to understand, Gemma, he finished the game with 20 kills. And he was destroying me. And we were down in the fourth set, 17-13, until we made a run and made a comeback. And before I got that championship point, I actually hit a ball out in that fourth set. So that feeling was an accumulation of so many things, right? But the biggest feeling that I had at that moment was, I remember when we were losing, and I love my team so much. I love being a teammate, you know? I love every aspect of it. And I knew I had another year, but I also knew some of my best friends didn't. So what I felt was there was no way I can lose this and watch my friends walk off with a loss. You know, those are my boys, those are my ride or dies, and there's no way they're walking off with a loss. And then so after that, everything just went numb. You know, I really couldn't even tell you what happened in the game because I don't remember, because I was just so tunnel vision. So when that ball hit the ground, it was the most pure and raw emotion I think I've ever felt in my life. And all I saw was just, my vision almost went black, and next thing I know, I'm getting pummeled by my teammates. And after that, I'm crying. Not gonna lie, but like that's just it's tough to put that into words, because it's a feeling I have never felt before, and I don't know if I'll ever feel that again.
It was absolutely incredible to watch, and I can tell you, I don't watch many volleyball games from start to finish as just a pure spectator. When I played, sure, but I was watching you, supporting you, and you had one of the toughest matchups I think anyone can ask for. One of the best athletes I've seen on the other side of the net, and Gemma and whatever, I don't know what his name is exactly, but it's Kofi, Gemma, I don't know what it is, but an impressive, incredible athlete. And I saw him kind of beating you in the matchup, and I saw you not getting as many sets. I don't think that was really your role on the team, but I had so much faith, and I knew, if Nick gets this ball, he's going to put it down. Because I just call it having a bias towards my best friend, call it whatever you want, but I had this faith in you, and I knew no matter what hardships you guys saw that game, I had a feeling it was going to come to you near at the end, and I was so stoked when I saw that. And I still, to this day, I was talking about it for 3 or 4 days. You were talking about, TJ and all these other guys who had these great games and amazing games, and your game might not have showed up on the stat sheet or whatever it might be, but you got that winning kill, and you put it down, and when it came down to it, your team trusted you. So that's a little just friend moment, and I was so beyond happy for you, and I was so stoked when it happened, and I felt like I felt like I got the kill, being your friend and watching the ball go down. I was like, that's my friend right there. I know him. He got that kill. I feel like, Teran, you probably had the same feeling, knowing him and seeing him put that ball down. It was so exciting.
Yeah, that's for all his fellow Pirates right there, Teran.
Yes, absolutely.
None of that happens without OCC and being a Pirate, baby.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agree. And yeah, I think even Mike Delisandro was even told me that was awesome when I pretty much made note of that, of you putting down that kill. And yeah, it was just an amazing moment.
Well, I would hope Deli would be proud of me. Wow. I mean, the guy coached me for 2 years too. I coached with him, I'd hope he'd be proud of me, but that's another Long Beach Pirate connection right there.
I think it just brought so much pride to so many people, and I think that's the amazing thing about winning a championship at the highest level like that, is all those players bring pride to themselves and bring pride to their program, but they also, the untold stories behind the scenes, they bring so much pride to so many other people who supported them and who were there for them and, root for them every single game, and I think that's just an incredible thing for any athlete to aspire for.
I definitely agree, Jack. And now, Nick, obviously you talked a little about you tearing your ACL, and I think it was your MCL and your meniscus in practice one time. How determined were you to try to get back into pretty much full shape and try to get back to full strength to rejoin your team?
Well, I'm not going to lie. That incident happened 11 months after my mother passed away, so I was already coming out of such a low, and to come out of that low, I had volleyball. And then, so when I hurt my knee, I didn't tear anything necessarily. What essentially happened is my kneecap went through my femur, breaking off about 2 inches of bone. And I'm sure there was some slight tears somewhere, but we never fixed any of it. But when I had come out of a low, I had volleyball, right? And then to lose that was such a low, you almost don't know what to do, because that volleyball was all I had. I went to school to play volleyball. And I mean, luckily I started enjoying school and did well in school, but that's the cold hard truth. I went to school to play volleyball, and now I don't have volleyball. And so the feeling I had was just like, okay, I need to do the absolute most to get myself back on track. And that's what I did, you have to learn how to respect the fact that you may not come back the same, right? But that doesn't mean different is bad, right? You may not be the same player, but that doesn't mean you can't be a different player. And being a different player, you may be able to find, you may be able to grow your game in a different way, right? So I wasn't jumping as high, so I had to be quicker with my arm, right? Or like I wasn't as quick, so I had to learn how to read to the pin. And luckily for me, a lot of my athleticism was able to come back. But that was only because I stuck to the rehab and the training that I was told to do. Because it's so easy, the second you get that note that says, hey, you're cleared, to say, screw rehab, like, I'm just going to go play. You know, so luckily I had a great athletic trainer at Long Beach who made sure I was taking care of my stuff, and my teammates were on top of me, and there was an accountability that I had to have because we needed each other to win. So, I mean, it's a low, you know, and a lot of athletes will experience that. You know, they don't talk about that very often when you're an athlete, is how much you're putting your body at risk and the mental state of which it can put you in when you get injured. You know, like they literally study that in sports psychology, is depression from injury, and almost every athlete will go through it at one point in their life. But it's also understanding that this is just a moment, no matter how long it is, and you will always come out on top as long as you keep a good mindset and you just stay on top of it and make a day-to-day effort to be better.
I love that.
Me too. I definitely love that, and I think I definitely remember you telling me that in the time I pretty much interviewed you for the little feature I did on the Daily 49er. So, yeah, it was definitely a tough moment. I think I remember hearing about that, and I was like, "Oh man," I'm like, that it just really bummed me out. And I'm like, but I know my boy Nick is gonna come back stronger than ever. I'm not trying to be the I called it guy, but I knew you were gonna come back because.
Well, you called it.
You called it.
Yeah.
You know, Teran talked about winning in against UCLA, obviously, in 2018. It's one thing to win a championship. It's another thing to go back-to-back. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's another thing to come into a season with a target on your back and to go through and be, you know, talking to everybody, you guys were the team to beat. And so everyone knew it. And to overcome that and to overcome that mentality, talk us through the season, talk us through the process, and then talk us through coming into that final match against Hawaii, who was a really, really, really good team.
Gnarly.
And, you know, talk about the pressure and everything like that and how your group was able to handle that.
Well, so the biggest conversation we had going into that season was the fact that we're not the same team as the team before. And that's a fact. We lost so many seniors, you know, great seniors who maybe weren't on the court, but they were leaders. And so how do you replace that, you know? And you have to find ways, you have to find people. And so it was all about getting that, and we also brought in maybe a bunch of new freshmen, maybe I think almost 10, if I'm remembering correctly. And how do you get them on board? How do you take them from just being there, right, to succeeding? And it's about having that influence over their teammates. And how do you gain that? Is through respect and leading by example, like I talked about with Travis Turner earlier at OCC. So for us seniors, it was about leading by example, right? Getting into practice early, an hour early every day, staying 2 hours later for extra reps or an extra lift, or maybe getting in on 6 a.m. during the fall season to increase your vertical or your quickness, and bringing these young guys in. So when it comes down to practice, they are better, so you're getting better. Because if they're not getting better, you're not getting better, then no one's getting better, right? Then you're the same team. And if you're the same team, you're not going to win because other teams are getting better. And so it's important to remember, like, we got swept by USC in February of that year. 03, right? So we weren't that hot shit. We really weren't. We also lost to Hawaii in the in the Big West Finals. You know, we didn't lead any stats. You know, but we came in with the mentality of no one is going to take this memory away from us. This is our memory to make. And you come in with that every single day, that I want to create my memories, then you will do whatever you can to be able to tell that story to maybe your children or your friends when you're older. And it's all about taking control, and that's what we strive to do. So it was just a huge moment of growth. You know, being an older being an older teammate. I mean, I'm 23, 24 at the time, and trying to influence 18-year-olds. And it's just part of being part of the team, and that's the beautiful part of it. You know, that's what makes being a team is the growth together. So going into that championship match, I mean, we're in the pyramid, which is, you know, one of the greatest experiences, winning a championship on your home court. Going into that, we didn't put any expectations on ourselves. The only thing we did was want to show how hard we worked. And any expectation that was put on us came from something that didn't matter. Right? So that means there's no expectation. There's no pressure. Right? I mean, if we sit there and we listen to the media or, you know, what's that, like forum, the volleyball forum or whatever it is, we listen to that. Okay, now there's pressure, but you don't listen to that because it doesn't really matter, because the only thing that matters is your team. Then there's no pressure on you at all.
That's just great advice for anybody who's at a high level or competing for a championship. I'll tell you, I think I'm gonna go to the grave telling my grandkids about the state championship I won at OCC, and you've got me one-upped with your back-to-back championships at Long Beach. That's for sure. Maybe not one-upped, maybe 2 or 3-upped, but it's just an incredible thing to win a championship, and then to win 2 in a row is something that takes an incredible amount of heart and team spirit, kind of like you guys talked about. So.
Agreed, definitely agreed. And Alan, and actually, now that Nick mentions what the media says, Alan Knipe actually said in a documentary that the Big West Conference did, I think it was called "Building a Legacy" or "Leave a Legacy," where Alan Knipe pretty much just said, "Drown out the outside noise." And what can you say about that bit of advice and how that you pretty much had to drill that into you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it just makes sense. You know, drown the noise. Like, the media is not going to make you better. Like, a news article is not going to make you better. Yeah, it may reaffirm like some ego that you have, or you know, they're not there in practice. They're not there every day. They're not waking up at 5 a.m. They're not, you know, blowing out their knees or getting hurt or hurting their back or their shoulder. They're not feeling pain. So why does it matter? I mean, they're just an opinion, you know? So if you're surrounded by opinions that don't really matter, then there's no pressure. The only thing that does matter is your work and what you put into it. And that will show as a result. The media is not going to create a result for you. You know, they're going to create an opinion. And so if you want to create your own results, you got to learn how to block that out and put your head down and just go to work. You know, and it takes a lot because, I mean, everyone likes to be reaffirmed in one way or another, but it takes a lot of growth and it takes a lot of introspective look, and then just, you know, but it's part of being an athlete. You know, I bet you some of the greatest athletes in the world, although they're, you know, right in the mix of some of the gnarliest media, I promise you they probably don't look at it very often. And if they do, then they need a reassessment.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this actually attests to the USC loss that you kind of mentioned. I think when I went on Twitter and I saw that you all kind of lost that match, and everyone was like flipping out. They were like, "Oh my God, Long Beach State lost to USC." It's like, I'm pretty sure that's not gonna matter. Let's all not flip out. And I even said this on Twitter. I said you were all bound to lose eventually, but it's better to lose now than to lose in the Big West Conference play, the Big West Conference tournament, or the NCAA tournament. And lo and behold, that loss actually might have been the turning point of that season last year.
That's right.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it could have been, but also one of the biggest things at Long Beach is that we applied was the fact that we can learn just as much from a win as we can from a loss. So we can, sweep a team and then sit there and watch film and see how much better we can do. So we didn't look as losing or winning as getting better. It was more so when we sat down and watched film together, how are you performing and are you sticking to our system? And so when we lost, we lost. We didn't show up and play our volleyball, But, I mean, you can't say, like, okay, this will make us better, because it's not going to make you better. What's going to make you better is getting in and working every single day, even after you win. Does that make sense? So, like, sure, it was like a turning point. Yeah, like our egos may have been hurt a little bit, and sure, some things might have changed. But it doesn't change the fact that even if we would have won, we would have gone in and worked just as hard. And that's the only thing that's going to make you 1% to 2% better every day is approaching everything like a loss.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just it's important for any athlete, any youth volleyball athlete, any youth athlete in general. The best memories come at the end of the season. You can't make your best memories at the beginning of the season, or you can't make your worst memories at the beginning of the season. You got to keep the bigger picture in mind. And I think that is what your team did. And I think that's why you guys found so much success.
Agreed. Now, I remember in that documentary, the Leave a Legacy documentary, where Olivia Phelps interviewed you, and she basically asked you the question, if you can give a headline right now, what would the headline be? And then you pretty much said, Beach does it again. And then it pretty much came true. And what was that feeling like, knowing that your prophecy pretty much just came true, or your headline prophecy? Because that was pretty much the headline after you all won the NCAA championship.
To be honest, I didn't even think about it until the paper came out, and I was told, hey, Nick, this is what you said. I mean, I love Olivia Phelps. I love her. She's great, and she is great at her job, and I'm very grateful for what she did for Long Beach. But, I mean, I wasn't thinking like, yeah, this is going to go on the paper. All I was thinking was that, yeah, I have enough belief and trust in my teammates that we will do it again. That's really all it was. It wasn't anything more than that, than the fact that, yeah, we tomorrow I have to go to practice and I'm going to get better. And I know we're going to get better every day. So why couldn't Beach do it again? Why not us?
I like that. I think before we get into, I'm going to talk about your professional career and your first year overseas, but I want to get into your coaching career a little bit, because we both coach for Balboa Bay. I know you take a lot of pride in the amount of gold medals you've won. So talk about coaching, and talk about your coaching style. Talk about some of the great coaches you've coached. I mean, I know you've coached some amazing athletes who have gone on to become Division I athletes, and some guys who are going on to play at Long Beach too. So talk about your coaching and coaching at the youth level, and talk about, how much pride you take in that.
Yeah, I mean, I love coaching so much, and a lot of it is because of the influence coaches had on me. To be able to return that is a very sobering and humbling experience. To watch a kid grow into himself, to watch him grow into a person. Especially, I took a team from 15 to 18, all 3 years, and to watch them flourish as seniors as high school, and think back wow, when you were a freshman, you were completely different. And it's the same way with all of us as players. That's why coaches do it, is because of how much they love it. I mean, I've been able to coach with great people. I mean, this last year I was with Matt Marujo. Before that, I was with Mike D'Alessandro and Dan Glenn, and then Greg Ford and Gus Culver. And, it's been a great experience watching them, how they interact with 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-olds. And it really makes you think of how impressionable they are and how much influence you can really have upon them. And with that, you can literally change the world. just by how you interact with these kids and just by teaching them the things they learn in sports and how to apply it to their daily life. Because, I mean, sports is great. I love sports. I'm an athlete. But there's going to be much more to that, you know, and to help them see that and help them see what they're doing in these 2 hours, how hard they work and how hard they go and how they interact with other people, how that can be applied to their day-to-day life, helping them see that is just so rewarding. It's more rewarding than a gold medal. And, like, winning is great. I mean, everyone wants to win, but at the end of the day, there's going to be more to a 17th gold medal, and that's when maybe you're 25 like I am, thinking like, wow, like this coach when I was 17 really showed me how to interact with people and how to be a better person. So to me, that's what coaching is, and that's what coaching always will be.
Coaching is a lifestyle for most coaches, and it pretty much is a lifestyle. From watching tape to game planning to teaching and coaching young men, what has coaching taught you about life?
Wow, okay. I guess what the biggest thing coaching has taught me about life is that everyone comes from different perspectives and experiences, so everyone is going to respond differently. So if everyone's going to respond differently, you got to learn how, as a coach, to portray a message, but in a different way, maybe every single time. So some kids you can be tougher with, some kids you can be easier with, but as long as that message is getting across and you're seeing a change with them, then that's okay. And so it taught me, hey, maybe I shouldn't respond in certain ways because a message is being portrayed to me. And so it's just about understanding everyone is so different and everyone lives a different life. But at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And how can you portray that to the next person, right? Or how can I receive that message from this person? So it's helped me look how I live my life very introspectively and on a different way.
That's deep. I like that. That was deep. That was good. That goes back to some of our great coaches, and you know, just another great coach here who has some great words of wisdom. So you did make the transition from college to professional. I know you just completed your first year out in Spain. I was rooting for you there. Talk about the change there, and what differences do you primarily see from the collegiate level to the professional level, both on the court and, you know, socially and in practice with your teammates?
Well, I mean, it's a whole different culture. Mm-hmm. You know, it's very, very, very different. I mean, in the U.S., it's very, and I can only speak from my experience in Spain, but in the U.S., it's just go, 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 work, work, work. Maybe there it's a little more lax, lifting only twice a week. You don't have to jump every day in practice, and that's okay for some people. It's about adjusting and learning how to adjust. I mean, my head coach didn't even speak English, so learning how to, learning some Spanish, and then learning how to play the game under the way he wanted it to be played, even though it may be so different. You got to learn how to adjust to that. You know, you also have to learn to adjust to some of your teammates, maybe 35, 36 years old. So they're going to come in. They're not going to be ready to go hard every day like you are. And you got to learn to accept that. But that shouldn't change how you practice or how you approach lifting or how you approach getting better day to day. One of the craziest things is how much time you have. You know, coming out of college, you have classes all day, you have homework, you have practice. So you're busy all day. I mean, when you're playing overseas, it's easy to just go to practice, go to lifting, and then work 4 hours a day, right? And so for the first 2 or 3 weeks I was there, I was like, okay, this is perfect. And then I'll just watch Netflix, and then I realized, wait, what am I doing? I have 20 more hours of the day. I mean, if we want to count sleep, 12 more hours of the day, I can be doing so much more with myself. So you learn how to pick up a book, or maybe if you're not picking up a book, you learn how to watch film on your own. or maybe you go explore the city you live in a little bit and experience the culture, right? And so it's just all about your mindset and how you approach things. You can approach it with, I only work 4 hours a day, or, hey, they only require me to be there 4 hours a day, but that doesn't mean I can't work 8 hours a day with extra lifts or extra video sessions or, really anything to make yourself a better volleyball player. So it all depends on what you want out of it. If you want to get better, like I was lucky enough to be able to have access to a gym. So I was able to work on my leg strength, my VMO strength, and my flexibility for 6 or 7 months. Or I could have just gone home, ate K-Bob, and watched Netflix till 1 o'clock in the morning and then wake up at 10 the next day. So it's all about how you approach it and what you want to get out of it. So with that type of, one of the best things I heard was from my good friend Dustin Watton, who's been playing professional for the last 10, 11 years now, who's on the USA team, is to learn how to stop being lonely and learn how to be alone, if that makes sense. Instead of just wishing you were home, to being okay with being alone and how to use that alone time to make yourself better. So that really stuck with me, so I try to apply that when I was out there as much as I can.
Great stuff right there, and I definitely remember you being a part of the U.S. What was it, the national team or the collegiate team, or which U.S. team were you a part of?
Teran, I just kind of showed up every day and just hoped they'd put me on a team. Eventually, I got on one for Norseca, but that's about it. But I was lucky to be able to just be around these players to help my game grow, and that's how I got pretty close with Dustin. So, yeah.
I think it's just incredible the amount of work ethic it teaches you and the industriousness it teaches you and how you want to – it takes into account how badly you want to master your craft. And I think, what you said, it puts that into perspective perfectly.
A few more questions on my part, Nick. So, even though you have plenty of volleyball left, in about 5 or 10 more years, what do you see yourself doing when volleyball is pretty much done? Or do you just plan to keep playing volleyball? Because don't get me wrong, I want the Nick Amado volleyball show to continue to go. But that's just me. I'm wondering, what do you have planned 5 to 10 more years down the road?
I mean, Teran, I'm working on that. I'm exploring different options. Like I said, when you have so much time to yourself, you're also able to find things that you find interest in, outside of volleyball. I haven't found a concrete thing for myself yet. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be able to have coached for so long that I hopefully maybe one day will have coaching options to explore. But it's just when you want to keep playing volleyball, and this is a fault of my own, I should be thinking about what I need to be doing in the next 5 to 10 years. But all you think about is what you're lifting the next day and what you're going to do to get better. So, I have a lot of different interests. I haven't finished my master's, but I'm working on my master's in public policy at Long Beach still. So that's an option. Coaching is an option. And then, maybe exploring different avenues of helping people or just being a good influence that I can.
I can speak from Nick and I's personal conversation as friends. This is nothing, nothing's in the works right now, but we've talked about creating a YouTube channel and becoming content creators. So
that's definitely a possibility.
There's definitely a possibility of that. That I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying we've had conversations about it and we're thinking about it. Only wholesome content, obviously, but that is another thing that I think Nick and I have had conversations about. Obviously, there's life after volleyball, and we're excited about it.
That's where everything's going nowadays. It's just content creation, like what you guys are doing right here, Teran? This is a great thing you guys have with this podcast. It's just all about creating content. Maybe that is the next step for me. Who knows? luckily I have a good friend here who just wants to be the gnarliest content creator Southern California has ever seen. But, who knows? It's when it happens, and I'm not one to really force things like that. And if it ends, it ends, and that's that. You got to accept it, you got to move on, and then life continues.
For real, and the world is definitely your oyster, Nick. Like, you can go wherever you want and do whatever you want. Because you've overcome so much, and your story is pretty much absolutely amazing. So I hope
thank you, Teran.
Whatever you do, I'm gonna be behind you the rest of the way. So
I'd love to hear that. Thank you so much.
I agree. I've got one more question. So for those who don't know, you have a professional contract signed in Finland, and you have another familiar face as your roommate, another OCC Pirate.
Yes,
Shout out to the OCC Pirates. Ryan Manoogian, who was our libero in the 2014 season, is going to be your roommate. Talk about your relationship with Ryan. I know you guys went to Cal State Long Beach together. Talk about him a little bit and talk about how excited you are for that experience.
Well, man, it's going to be so awesome having another American on my team. I didn't have that last year. Luckily, a lot of my teammates spoke English, but to be able to have, an American is going to be so awesome, and especially the fact that it's Ryan just makes that experience so much sweeter because of how awesome of a dude he is, He goes to work every day, and he just wants to get better, and I vibe with that. Those are the type of people I want to be around. And if you don't know who Ryan Manoogian is, he played with us at OCC, and then he played at Long Beach State with me, and he's actually deaf. So he wears hearing aids, and the best thing and the most beautiful thing about that is he does not let that affect him whatsoever, and it does not affect the way he plays his game, which is hard, with intent. And so it's something I love to see, and it's something I love to be around. And the fact that I get to live with him and play with him again is just an absolute blessing. I'm very lucky to be able to do that because it gives me an opportunity to look at someone and see how can I grow from this, and how can being with him and playing with him and watching him triumph over his issues or his experiences, how can that make me a better person so I can also triumph as an athlete? So I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed, and I can't wait. It's going to be such a fun season. And all he is just a big ball of energy. So I love that, and I can't even put in words how excited I am.
That's awesome. I don't know if I've ever met someone who loves volleyball as much as Ryan Manoogian.
There's no one that does.
He absolutely loves volleyball, and like you said, all he wants to do is improve at volleyball.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm excited to be around something like that. That's just going to help my game grow so much more.
definitely, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you and he just dominate the court defensively, and in your case, offensively as well. So, before we end this interview, Nick, I like to always end the interview on a positive note and a little bit of a light and funny note. So, ever since this whole pandemic started, there was this one item in particular that just instantly vanished off the shelf. It disappeared without a trace, and no one knew what happened to this one item in particular. So, Nick, I must know, did you have enough toilet paper when this whole pandemic started?
No. I did not.
Uh-oh.
I did. No. So every time I went, I took a shower after.
Well,
just let Nick do its thing from there, dude.
Oh, man. Quarantine problem.
Hashtag quarantine problems.
So that on a t-shirt and run through a wall, huh?
Yep. That's true, Nick. Definitely true. Well, this is why everyone here at IE Sports Radio kept saying to stop hoarding all the dang toilet paper. That because we really can't have this problem. And just don't no one to this day knows why people were hoarding the toilet paper. It's the greatest question that has never been solved, not even by the greatest of detectives.
Well, it's because they didn't want to shower it that much. That's got to be it, right? I mean, who knows? I mean, when this all happened, the first thing I did was buy rice, noodles, and beans, like I was going to go survive an apocalypse. And then I left Spain like 2 days later. My roommate got all this free food.
With no toilet paper.
With no toilet paper. Running up the water bill. So who knows? Everyone reacts differently, but have you ever ran out of toilet paper?
Nah, I've still got some.
Come on, that's such a helpless feeling. How many times have you gone and then open up the door and you just go, "Ma! Ma, can you bring me a roll?"
I've definitely had that moment
it's
before.
Such a helpless feeling.
We've all been
there. No one wants that, so I get it.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling. But on that note, thank you so much, Nick, for joining us today on Set Point. It was definitely a pleasure. Do you have anything else you want to add before we head to a commercial break?
No, just thank you for having me, and I'm so stoked you and Jack are doing this. I love Jack to death. I love you to death, and then just all I want to see is just this, flourish and prosper to the great podcast that it's going to be. So, and that it already is as well. So, I mean, just thank you so much for having me. I'm incredibly lucky and incredibly blessed to be here. So, thanks again, Teran. You're the man, dude. Thanks again, Jack.
Of course.
No problem, Nick. And hey, I just gotta say, I have no regrets of supporting you during your volleyball career. The only regret I do have is not supporting you when you first fully got to Long Beach, because I obviously needed to straighten out my priorities, and once I got everything straightened out, I could finally get to Long Beach State and actually support you. So that's kind of my thing I also want to get out as well.
Well, dude, I knew I had your support from the beginning and end, no matter what, Teran, so I wasn't even worried.
Pirates are forever.
Pirates are forever, brother.
Yep, part of the crew, part of the ship. All right, so we're going to take ourselves a quick commercial break, and when we get back, Jack and I will be discussing some volleyball news regarding the fall of 2020. So you're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Drivers, start your engines. Auto racing takes many forms, from the close quarter contact of NASCAR
to the high-speed, high-risk atmosphere of IndyCar,
all the way to the pinnacle of technology with the Formula One World Championship.
No matter if you prefer the high banks of Daytona,
the concrete canyons of Long Beach,
or the flowing curves of the Nürburgring.
The international language of motorsports is simple. Go fast,
run hard,
and come home first.
So join us, myself, Darrell Kinsey Jr.,
Lolita Camello,
and Michael Ward,
on a world tour of all the best motorsports has to offer on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, only on your home for all. That is sports. IE Sports Radio.
From the home plate to the nets, the end zone to the finish line, here nothing is off limits and no sport is safe. Not what it seems with your host Caitlin Seam, bringing you sports like you've never heard before. Catch me Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on IA Sports Radio. The only question is, are you ready?
My question to you all is, are you ready for what's about to come next? Because Nick Amado is actually still going to be staying with us live as we pretty much wrap up the show with some volleyball news. But welcome back to Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez along with Jack Stafford and Nick Amado. So now let's get into the volleyball news. First, this weekend, the AVP will be having its annual event. I think it's the Challenge Cup or Champions Cup in Long Beach. And I pretty much touched upon the top 6 seeds from last week. So if you didn't hear that from last week, you can go back and listen to it. But we're going to get more in depth into AVP with Jack and Nick. So Jack, what are your thoughts about the top 6 seeds on the women's and men's side, and what are you looking forward to this weekend, even though there won't be any fans, of course?
I'm just looking forward to seeing high-level volleyball. You know, I think the big thing for all of us to remember, and I think as, you know, sports do come back and everything like that, I think there's parallels to what the NBA is doing. You know, I'm just happy to see live sports coming back and see athletes competing, you know, in the sport they love. I'm excited to see these high-level athletes play, and I'm going to be tuning in for sure. And I think any return of sports right now is so welcome for me. So I'm excited for sure. How about you, Nick?
Oh, man. The AVP this weekend is going to be gnarly. Because, I mean, you got 6 teams who are already qualified, and then who are auto entries, and then you have 12 teams that make up some of the best beach volleyball players, you know, around, that it's you know, it's a pool of death essentially. You know, it's the one shot they get all summer. So all you're going to see is just the best beach volleyball that they're going to come out and play. You know, and so you just got some gnarly teams that are just going to show up. It's going to be if you miss this, then you're not a sports fan.
Definitely agree, especially for all you volleyball buffs out there. The event will be starting this weekend, July the 19th and July the 20th. And it'll also go through, or July 18th and July 19th, and then it'll go to next weekend, July 25th and July 26th, and then it'll go all the way till August 1st to August 2nd. So it'll be running for 3 weekends. So Jack and I, and maybe Nick, we'll be recapping that, and it'll be the first volleyball event we'll be recapping in quite some time, ever since this whole pandemic started, because obviously it was a bummer that everything just had to be put to a halt, but we're making the most of it. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, if you're a sports fan, this whole quarantine has been a bummer, but all you can feel right now is excitement for things to finally start to get back and to see some real, you know, athletes competing out there. I think it should be pure excitement right now.
Yeah, and it's cool to see the fact that, you know, a lot of these teams, I mean, yeah, they've been training, but they haven't been playing back-to-back weekends like they usually do during the summer. So a lot of them are going to be coming in fresh, ready to go. And over the past year, the game of beach volleyball has grown so much in how it's played. You're seeing faster tempos to the pin. You're seeing, like, juke plays, you know, and a lot of the defense is just straight reading. So you're going to see bigger digs and bigger blocks, and it's just going to be some great volleyball this weekend.
Absolutely. And like Jack and I have pretty much said, beach volleyball definitely differs from indoor volleyball. It still has the whole set format, but the point target is different, and then obviously the decisives, and it's best 2 out of 3, and then if you win 2 sets, you basically win, and then the decisive third set, if needed, will always goes to 15, and you still gotta win by 2. So just gotta clarify. So
And I think also in the AVP they have the freeze point, right? So if you're down, if you're about to win, it goes back to rally scoring where you have to serve to win the game. So I'm almost positive that's what we're going to see. So some of these games, it might be 15-14, but it might be 15-14 for a long time. Mm-hmm. So it adds a whole nother, conditioning aspect to the game where you now have to take into account the game might be that much longer, and it also focuses on defense just that much more. And I'm a big fan of blocking and defense, so it's going to be really cool to see.
Absolutely, and like the old saying goes, defense wins championships. So, and you pretty much got to serve and pass. Serving and passing is essential when it comes to volleyball, as Travis Turner once said. So, you got to put those tools to good use. So, anyway, now for some more volleyball news back in regards to the fall of 2020. In addition to the Ivy League being canceled, the Patriot League has also canceled all of its fall sporting events. And I pretty much tweeted this out on Twitter through the Set Point account that there will be no Patriot League sporting events in the fall. So no football, no volleyball, which it is kind of saddening, but it's not like a Power 5 league. But the Patriot League does also join the Ivy League in regards to conferences that have canceled fall sports in 2020. So I just want your take on, Jack and Nick, on the Ivy League and the Patriot League being canceled in terms of fall sports.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because so many people feel like they should do different things. Some sports are just moving into winter. Some fall sports are saying, hey, we're just going to be a winter sport now, or they're only playing conference. I know they're doing that for football in some different leagues. So it's just everyone has a different approach to this, and everyone's going to have different opinions. But at the end of the day, what it's all about is just keeping people safe. And so what everyone feels is going to keep the most amount of people safe, then I am fully going to support it whatsoever.
Yeah, I think I'm part of the group that thinks it's just a shame whenever athletes are stripped of their opportunities to compete. I think for me at least, as a competitive person and as someone who that was the biggest joy I got, was just being able to compete. I just feel bad for those athletes who wanted to go out and compete every single day and in practice and, work their butts off to become the best team that they can. But again, it is about keeping people safe. And I think one thing to mention is the Ivy League and the Patriot League included. I don't know much about the Patriot League in volleyball, but I know the Ivy League in volleyball has been growing and growing and growing. And Harvard, and Princeton, I know, have some absolutely incredible programs. And so,
Yale's on the uprise as well. Sorry to cut you off.
What's that?
Yale is on the uprise as well, as I remember they beat Princeton last year.
Yeah, I think those leagues have been growing in skill and volleyball prowess, and I'm not sure. I know Jesse Harris was a CDM player who went out and played out there. I know on the men's side, Matt Severtlik, and there was a bunch of really great players that were starting to go out there and play in the Ivy League and in those leagues, and they were growing and growing, and they might not get the national recognition, but definitely hold a place in the sport and are valued in the sport. So it's a shame to see athletes lose their opportunity to play, but it's also, again, like Nick said, about the safety of everybody. Definitely
agree on everything you two pretty much pointed out, because at the end of the day, and even though like certain people want, it's like certain owners care about the money, the safety of like the fans and the players are the number one priority, because without the players there's no sports, and without the sports there's no fans, without the fans there's no income, and without no income it's basically no good, no bueno. So in addition to the Patriot League and Ivy League being canceled, the Pac-12 and Big Ten have pretty much agreed that they're going to be limiting competition to only conference games only. Now, I think this would mean that for women's volleyball, I think this would mean that every team would have to play each other twice. Because last year in Pac-12 play, Washington and Stanford didn't play each other twice. So I'm assuming this means that everyone's going to be facing one another twice in one season. I think the same can be said for the Big Ten. I'm not entirely sure, but if they're all going to make just conference only, then I would assume that would be the case, considering you want to have as many games as possible. And the Pac-12 has a lot of teams in it, and a lot of talented teams at that. It has 12 teams in it, so a lot of those teams are going to be playing their hearts out. So what are your thoughts about the limitations of competition being only to conference play, you two?
I think, again, like I said, it's a shame when athletes are stripped of the opportunity to compete. I think it's amazing that they're finding a way to allow those athletes to compete. I think both those conferences are so competitive as it is, in women's volleyball especially. Like, I know Washington, Stanford, UCLA, USC, and then when you get into the Big Ten, it's Wisconsin,
Nebraska, Minnesota,
Penn State.
It's all these teams that are extremely talented, so I'm sure they're not going to have a problem finding talented teams to play. I think we might head into a slippery slope when it comes to national championships and stuff like that, with teams not able to face out-of-conference teams. I think that's something that can make teams stand out against the competition. So I think that's where, I don't think we'll run into problems, but I think that's something that upsets me, is not seeing those inter-conference battles that really prove who's the best out there. But again, I'm just happy to see athletes able to go out and compete.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful part, is the fact that athletes are going to go out and compete and be able to do what they love to do. It's just going to be, the scheduling is going to be different because, for a while, California was fine with Corona, and maybe, states on the East Coast were not as good, and then now we're, one of the hot spots, and maybe Washington isn't as focused with Corona, so scheduling, it might be different based on, the amount of cases or the hot spots or, the risk of which is being taken to travel to and from these places. So it's going to be interesting, but playing 24 games, playing 24 conference games, that's going to be pretty intense. But it's also, you play, like Jack said, you play out of conference games to not only get a feel for the other teams in different states, but also to be able to learn how to adjust to travel, so Stanford would maybe travel to Minnesota to play, not only to play Minnesota because they're a great team and they need to get better, but also to learn how to be able to travel and still perform with a time difference, altitude difference, weather, these are all things that, if you let it, it can affect you, and you need to learn how to adjust to that. And so they won't be getting as much of that. So it's going to be very interesting, but as long as they get to play and there's safety involved, then it's going to be an awesome thing.
I think that's the important thing, is all of this is contingent on everyone being safe and staying safe, obviously, and keeping themselves healthy. But seeing athletes play the sport they love is something that I get the greatest joy out of.
Absolutely, and same goes with me as well. And me personally, I'm glad that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are pretty much doing this, keeping it going. Although it is a little watered down, we're getting some competition. And the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the Pac-12 are pretty much two great conferences. They're Power 5 conferences, and they obviously want to continue to pretty much prove that their teams can win a possible championship. And I think it's great that they're still trying to get something going despite this whole coronavirus. So Anyway, now our last topic of the night, and then we'll pretty much send you all on your way, is Stanford's men's volleyball team. And as I talked about last week, Stanford's men's volleyball team will be discontinuing after the 2020-2021 season. But they've garnered a whole lot of support in signing a petition of having their program stay, and it's really great to see. I really hope that Stanford men's volleyball will continue, and that they don't discontinue it. So I want your thoughts, Nick and Jack. What was your reaction when you first heard that Stanford was gonna get discontinued their men's volleyball program, and pretty much what are you hoping that comes out of this?
Well, it's tragic. It's tragic to see this. I mean, as a person that loves the game and is seeing how the game is growing exponentially, it's one of the fastest growing sports in America right now is men's volleyball, and teams are always adding, new teams, or colleges are adding new teams. To see a team that's a legacy, that has national championships, that has Olympians, All-Americans that have played there, to just discontinue it because they don't think they can fund it, it's tragic, and it makes you think like they didn't look at all the options that were available to allow such a great team to continue to exist. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't know where the money goes to, but I do know that Stanford did get a $28 billion endowment from the California government to, continue operating. And so it sucks because it also ruins the game of volleyball in a sense where, Stanford is one of those schools where, hey, maybe I'm not the best volleyball player, but I can go here, I can play volleyball, and I can get a great education, right? So now it's limiting the education factor of that some volleyball players are now able to receive. And so now if they want to continue that great education that you will get, I mean, Stanford's one of the best schools in the nation. Now they have to go to the East Coast, right? So it creates more like a concentration of these type of players on the East Coast, which sure, it'll help out schools like Harvard and Princeton, but it really limits the opportunities that these athletes now receive because the school feels as if that they can't support an athletics program, which is tragic because they know they can, and they know they can receive the funding and the support to do it.
Yeah, I think I'll be brief. I think it's just heartbreaking. I think, you saw Stanford starting to, I saw Hunter Dickey from Orange Coast College signing there. Will Rotman signed there last year, who's a great player. They were growing and growing and growing, and it's just heartbreaking to see. And like Nick talked about, they're one of those schools that's great academically, but also great athletically. And so it puts those athletes into sort of a weird situation where do they continue this great academic career or do they continue pursuing the sport they love? And you never want to see an athlete put in that position. So for all of our listeners out there, if you haven't already, sign that petition, do what we can to try and keep it going, because all of us here, we want to see athletes able to perform the sport they love at the school they love. And that, I think, is an important thing. And whether one of those is compromised, it's heartbreaking in the end.
Very well said, you two, and I definitely agree with you. I really want everyone to pretty much sign the petition to keep Stanford men's volleyball going, and they have a great championship culture. They've won 2 NCAA championships, and they definitely have the support of everyone, not just in Stanford, but from the whole volleyball community as well. The whole volleyball world is behind them, and the same can go for the other 10 Stanford sports that's probably wanting to save their team. But on that note, we're going to pretty much wrap it up there. For myself, Teran Rodriguez, and for Jack Stafford and Nick Amado, we thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Set Point. Before we sign off, I definitely want to say a happy anniversary to Ohio State men's volleyball coach Kevin Birch and his wife, as the two are celebrating their wedding anniversary, which is really awesome. So just want to get that out of the way. And on that note, it's time to drop the beat, because the three of us are about to dip like bananas in chocolate. You dig? Like I said, this is Teran Rodriguez and for Jack Stafford and Nick Amado, thank you all for tuning in to Set Point. Thank you again to Nick for being a guest on Set Point. And now, coming up on IE Sports Radio, we have Gloves Off with the one, the only, Marcus Losgrid. Have a great night, everybody. Peace and blessings.